Good morning everyone. Welcome back to day 9 of our PowerShell learning series. Before we start today's topic, I'll ask a simple question. So, whenever your SQL server backup fails, are you getting any alert, whether in terms of monitoring tool or in terms of any alerting mechanism? So, are you getting it? Or whenever your CPU usage is crosses 90%, are you getting an alert? Or when a service is stops, whether it is a SQL service or agent service, is stopped unexpectedly, so are you getting an alert? So whoever is using the monitoring system, if they configure the alerts, obviously you will get the alerts. Whoever is not using the monitoring system, either any monitoring tool, either Redgate, Logic Monitor or whatever it is, you will be getting an alert. So through PowerShell also we can create and we can configure these alerts as well. So how does PowerShell decide what action to take when the SQL server backup fails, or when the CPU usage crosses 90%, how it will send an alert, or when the service is stopped, so what action it has to take, whether it needs to start the service or stop the service or send an email notification. So how does PowerShell decide what action to take? The simple answer is conditional statement. You are checking the condition, like the SQL server backup is success or not, or when the CPU usage is above 90 or below 90, or whether service status is running or stopped. So here you are checking the condition, either or, right? So today we are learning how PowerShell makes decision. How PowerShell makes decision. In this session, you will learn what conditional statements are, how PowerShell makes decision, how to use if else, else if and switch conditions, and very few real world examples for simple automation. So without conditions, PowerShell is just executing the commands. For example, if you write get services, it is just giving an information. It is just a simple executing the command. Get process, it is just giving a command. But without conditions, as I said, PowerShell is just executing the commands. Whenever you write conditions like service is stopped, should I send an email or not, something like that, with this condition, PowerShell becomes more intelligent. So in every server daily, you no need to connect to the server and check whether the services are running or not, the CPU usage is high or not, whether the backup is success or not. You no need to connect and verify. So if you write the proper condition, then it will also send an email notification. It will send an alert. Okay. So in this session, this will be really helpful to you to write some conditional based statements. So far we have learned variables, operators, providers and all. Okay. So from here on we are going very deeper into the topic. Okay. So many people are having doubts by writing the conditions, but as I mentioned earlier, so this series is completely for beginners to intermediates. Okay. So whoever is already comfortable with PowerShell, they already know that they can able to write the queries or the statements or the scripts, but I am focusing only for beginners. Don't panic about automation. PowerShell is just a simple language. If you know English like commands, then PowerShell is dead easy. Okay. Without wasting any time, just directly jump into the session. So what are conditional statements? What are conditional statements? Conditional statements allows scripts to make decisions. Whenever you write a query, so whenever you write a script, so conditional statements will allow you to take the decisions, make the decision and run different code based on the condition. For example, if success, then run this code. If it is failure, then run this code. If it is service is stopped, then run this code. If service is running, then run this code, something like that. And also it will compare the values as well. with conditional statements we can compare the values, and with these conditional statements we are writing automation logic, and we are writing more automation logic. For example, if the temperature is hot, then turn on the AC, else it is turn it off. So this is how script think and act intelligently. So how does it know PowerShell? How does it know whether temperature is hot or cold? Obviously, there will be some background code will be written to capture the temperature, right? So based on the temperature, if it is hot, for example 30 degrees or 40 degrees, then it will turn on the AC. If temperature is below 20 or below 30, then obviously it will stop the AC, something like that. It is taking a decision, it is making decision whether I need to turn it off or turn it on. And as I mentioned, we can run different code based on conditions, and also we can compare the values. This is how script becomes intelligent. Okay. For example, in terms of DB related part, if I talk about, so if backup size is 0, when the backup has been completed, if the backup size is 0 means there is no backup, which means something is happened, the backup is not performed. Why it is showing 0? At least as it is a new database, by default it will acquire the properties from model database, at least 100 KB or something else it will be created. But if it is showing as 0, backup is failed. If it is not 0, and it will go for the else condition stating that backup is successful. Okay. And if we take another example, okay, so most of the clients, most of the customers are using monitoring systems to monitor their environment or estate. So obviously they will set up a couple of alerts. For example, if CPU is 90%, you will get a critical alert. If it is crossed 90% for more than 5 minutes or 10 seconds or 10 minutes, something like that, you will get a critical alert. If it is not crossed, it will continuously check the CPU utilization. Whenever it crosses, then it will send an alert. Okay, it will send an alert. How it is sending an alert? It is taking a decision stating that it is crossed the CPU, so I need to send an email. The PowerShell will decide, it will make a decision and send an email. Okay. In the conditional statements, the first statement is if statement. The if statement is the simplest conditional statement. If statement is simplest conditional statements. It checks a condition. If the condition is true, then PowerShell runs the code inside the block. If the condition is true, then it will run the inside the code, like which is in the block, the code will be executed. If condition is false, okay, for example, if I have mentioned age is 20, so I am writing a condition. If age is greater than 18, then you can print as you are an adult. If it is below 18, it will print as minor. In the simple if statement, it is just checking a condition. Here there is no else condition. We are writing simple if condition. If the condition is true, then it will run the inside the code. Inside whatever the code which is inside the block, it will execute. Otherwise, it will not. Okay. This prints only if the condition is true. Here we are not giving any alternate conditions or alternate options. If condition is true, then execute the code which is inside the block. Otherwise, it will exit. Okay. If statement checks a condition. If the condition is true, PowerShell runs the code inside the block. PowerShell runs the code inside the block. We can also, we will take a real example, or else we can test it out how it is going to be executed. Okay. Here first I am defining a variable. How to define a variable? So here I have mentioned age is 20. Okay. Here I am writing the condition age greater than 20. So if age is greater than 80, then Here make sure you need to write a blocks. Here you are using curly braces, right? So inside the block you have to write. So write output, you can mention you are an adult. Okay, what it will do, first whatever the value which are assigned, it will check. Here if the condition is true, as greater than is 18, which means if the value is greater than 18, then it will print you are an adult. Okay, I'm just simply executing. See, you can see you are an adult. For example, I'll mention as 15. Okay, I'll mention as 15. We'll see. Here you can see you are an adult. Okay, how we can make it as false? Here you can see I have given the over value. Okay, 20 is greater than 256. Is it true? It's a false condition, not 256, just will give a 25. Okay, so if you can see here, it is not printing you are an adult. Okay, age is greater than 25, but here we have given 20 only. 20 is greater than 25, so it is a false condition. Then it will not execute inside the block. Okay, hope you understand. So here I've just given the value as 20. I'm passing the value as 20. Okay, if age is greater than 25, then you are an adult. If the condition is false, then ignore it. Or else what I will do is I'll make it as 30. Okay, what I will do is I'll give a passing the value. 30 is 30 greater than 25. So here this condition is satisfied. This condition is true. 30 is greater than 25. Then it will execute, and it will print the condition as you are an adult. So you can see you are an adult. It is printing. So it is checking the condition. Okay. So far, whoever learned the conditions or scripting language, they may be panic about this part. But if you are slowly comfortable with the conditional statements, then you will be very comfortable to learn the PowerShell. Okay. Or else we can do one more example. Okay, I'll take another example. Here service status, for example, service status I'm making as run. Okay, so I'm just mentioning as service status. If service status equal to running, then what needs to be printed? So here you can write services running and healthy. You can write like this. If the service status is running, then the condition is satisfied, and inside the code block will be execute. What does, for example, in interviews, if they ask you what does if execute, what does if execute means? It is only executing when the condition is true. When the condition is true, then the inside block will be executed. Hope you understand this if statement. The next one is else statement. Okay, else is providing an alternate option when the if condition is false. Else is providing an alternative option when the if condition is false. As we discussed earlier, if age is greater than 20, then execute inside the block. If not, then what it has to print? If the condition is false, then it will print the else condition code which is inside the block, in else code. Okay, so the structure is simple. So if condition, here this condition is true, then this code will be executed. This code, if true, will be executed. If condition is false, false, then else condition will be executed. Else condition will be executed. If you can see here, dollar age equal to 16. I am assigning a 16 to the value. So if age is greater than 18, if age is greater than or equal to 18, then print adult. Then print adult. If not, if it is not, then it will print minor. Now tell me 16 greater than 18. 16 greater than 18. So is it true statement or false statement? Is it 16 greater than or equal to 18? It is a false condition. So in this case, what it will print? It will print as minor. It will print as minor. So here PowerShell chooses one of the two blocks. It will not execute two blocks. It will check. It will execute only one block in the out of two blocks. Out of two blocks, PowerShell chooses only one block to execute based on the condition. If the condition is true, then in if condition code will be in the code which is inside the if condition will be executed. If condition is false, then else code will be executed. Else code will be executed. So for example, what we can do is we can write one more example. For example, on disk free equal to 15%. I am giving it 15. So if I am writing disk free, okay, disk free greater than 20, then what it has to do is, the status is, if it is greater than 20, then print as healthy. You can write output also, or else you can write HELD disk space is good, something like that. Okay, or else here you are writing one more condition, else again you are writing, if condition is false, then you need to print low disk space. So tell me, if is 15 is greater than 20, it's a false condition, then what code block will be executed? So the low disk will be executed, low disk space else statement will be executed. If you can see here, low disk space, because 15 greater than 20, it is a false condition, then it is executing low disk space, because we have set a value 15, right? 15 greater than 20 is a false condition. So what I mentioned, if the condition is false, then else code will be executed. If the condition is true, if condition code will be executed. Okay, similarly you can also write the code for backup status. If backup status is success, then you can show as backup completed. Else automatically it won't check anything, as it is a false condition. If it is not success, means it is a false condition, then it will print backup failed. It will print backup failed. This is about else statement. Okay, simple example I am giving for the beginners. So the next statement is else if. Else if, for example, what if we have more than two possibilities? What else if we have more than two possibilities? For example, student marks. Okay, for example, student marks. Here we are assigning value as 75. Okay, so if marks is greater than 90, then he is in A grade. If he is greater than 75, if he is greater than or equal to 75, then grade B. So if the marks is less, automatically it will take as a grade C. So here else if, when you need to check multiple conditions, if not this, if not this, if not this, something like that, not just only true or false, it is checking multiple conditions. If any one condition is true, then that particular code which is inside the block will be executed, else the last statement, the last code will be executed. The last code will be executed. If and else are not enough, so we will get a chance to check the multiple condition. Then in that time we will get else if is different, if else is different, else if is different. Okay, so else is a alternate option for the if condition. Whenever you want to check, whenever you wanted to check multiple condition, then you need else if conditions, then you need to use else if conditions. For example, you can write one small example here. So let me write a code here. So just we'll take this one only, like for example we'll take a marks condition. Okay, so dollar marks equal to, I am giving 75. So as I mentioned earlier, whenever you assign a value at that time, this variable will be created. Okay, so if marks greater than equal to 90, then this statement will be executed. So grade A. Okay, else if, again it is checking the another condition, again it is checking the other condition, marks greater than or equal to 75, then it will print grade B. And after checking this condition, if it is this has to be here. Okay, so else then grade C, right? Here it is checking 3 conditions. We can pass multiple conditions as well. First I am assigning 75. So if it is greater than 90, you are grade A. If it is greater than or equal to 75, then grade B. If it is the both conditions are not satisfied, then it will automatically print as grade C. So as we have given 75, what it will do, it will print as grade B. If you can see, grade B. So if I make it as 91, then it will print as grade A. You can see grade A is the execution output. Okay, this is how you can write else if conditions. Or else you can write one more. You can write, for example, if the CPU is less than 50, if CPU is less than 50, then you can print as normal. If CPU is less than 80, if CPU is less than 80, you can write as high. Else if it is greater than or equal to 90 or greater than or equal to 80, you can print as critical alert. You can print as critical alert. If CPU equal to 95, what will happen? If CPU equal to 95, so it will send a critical alert. It will send a critical alert. Okay, this is what about else if statement. So far we discussed about if statement, else statement and else if statement. So one more very important statement is switch statement. Very important. Many people are confusing about this switch statement. Okay. Here sometimes we may have many possible values. We have many possible values. Using multiple else if statements will be messy. Okay, so if we write multiple else if statements, the code will be showing as a messy. So instead what we can do is, instead of complicating the code, what we can do, we can use switch statement. We can use switch statement. It makes very clean and clear structure. It makes very clear and clean structure. For example, if you can see the screen, so my day I am assigning a value to Monday. Okay, when I am assigning a value to Monday, switch. So here I am writing a switch statement. Here I passed a value day. So whenever the day is equal to Monday, then it will print start of the week. Here we can have a multiple options, right? So we can get the current day as well, right? So for example, if it is today is Friday, then weekend is near, it will print like that. If it is a Sunday, it will print as holiday. By default, it will print as regular. Here we are having multiple possible values, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Instead of writing multiple else if statements, you can write simple statement using switch. Okay, whenever we are having multiple possible values, we are having multiple possible values, then we'll use switch statements. It will make very simple and it is very clean and clear. Okay, here it will make long conditions easy to read. If there is any long conditions, whenever we use switch statements, it is very easy to read the statements as well. Okay, for example, environment identification. For example, if you want to identify the environment, okay, so I have assigned the value to prod. Okay, for example, here instead of day I assigned the environment as a variable name, and I passed a value to prod. Okay, so here in the switch condition I'll pass as environment, as a environment. So if it is PRD, then it is a production server. If it is dev, then it is a dev server, and if it is a QA, it is a QA server. Like that, based on the multiple conditions, so we can write switch statement very easily. So a switch status is very simple. Okay, the thing is, don't confuse about the switch statement. Instead of writing multiple ELSEIF statements, if you write a switch statement, then the code will be reduced and you can easily read and debug the code as well. But when do we use this switch statement? So whenever you have a many possible values to check, then you will be using this switch statement. Okay, so in many cases, in the application side or websites or any monitoring systems or authentication systems, we will be using many cases we are using these switch statements. And if we take a real example from the SQL point of view, SQL login monitoring. Okay, if login succeeds, then it allow access, else records a failure. Okay, so what it will do is, depends, when there is a possibility of multiple conditions, then we can use switch statement. Okay, then we can use switch statement. So and one more example is, for example, CPU is 85. We have already discussed about, right? CPU values, I'm assigning value to 85. If it is less than 50, it will print as normal. If it is less than 80, CPU usage is high. Otherwise it will go for else condition, usage is critical. Then it is a ELSEIF statement used in monitoring tools in the backend. Okay, and one more, if you want to, as there is a multiple possible extensions, right? So in applications we have .js file, .txt file, .config file. So we are having multiple kind of files. In that case, so when we can use switch statement. So I am passing value to .txt as a text document. So whenever we pass text value, so it will switch the statement, and if it is .txt, then it will print as text file, .jpg, maze file, something like this. Okay, so which is used in file handling scripts. Mostly this will be used in file handling scripts. If file is .csv, it will import the data. If .txt file, it will read the file. So if .bak, it will move the backup file from one location to another location. Depends on the code which you written in the inside the block, which you write inside the block. The main common mistakes will be using when they write conditional statements. So what they are doing is, they are writing instead of eq, instead of -eq, they'll write equal to. Whenever you write equal to symbol, you are assigning one value to another variable, but here you are writing a condition. Conditions also always based on the conditional operators we have, right? So -eq you need to use, because it is checking the condition. Okay, and sometimes you may forget the braces, either curly braces or parentheses. Sometimes you may miss. So that's why whenever you write a code, starting itself, open and close the curly braces, and you can write the code inside the block. As I mentioned, sometimes we may missing curly braces, and we may not using ELSEIF condition properly. Okay, and overusing switch, when the simple if is enough, then we will be facing some problems. But it depends on the requirement. So if it is a simple condition checking, then use if condition. So if there is any alternate option, then you can go with if and else. if you want to check multiple conditions, then you can go with ELSEIF condition. Coming to the switch, whenever there is a multiple possibilities like days or extension, something like that, then you can use switch statement. The best practices for this is use if for simple decision. First, as I mentioned, you start with simple if statement. Okay, if backup equal to success, then print this one. If backup equal to fail, then print this. Then slowly move to the if else. Okay, and then slowly move to the nested if else, which means else if, and slowly learn the switch statements. This is how you can learn conditional statements very easily. Okay, so use switch for multiple fixed values. If there is any multiple fixed values or multiple possibilities, then you can use switch statements. Always indent code for readability. You always use the indent. I hope you are aware of this indent. Just moving to the next slide for easy reading. And keep conditions are clear and simple. Always follow the naming conventions. Instead of username, if you type you, then it will be very hard to read. So use proper naming conventions for better understanding. This is about conditional statements. Conditional statements. Hope you understand these conditional statements, and then I'll come up for the next concept will be loops. I will come up with loops, and if you are having any doubts or any queries, you can comment on the chat so that I will reply. Okay, if any voice or anything, then you can comment on this your channel and the video below. I will definitely reply back. And yeah, that's it. We'll meet in the next class. Thank you.